Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us once again for the Real Estate Heavyweights podcast. And man, this is an awesome week. We came off of Thanksgiving week. I apologize. You know, there's not millions of people listening just yet, but the people that are listening regularly, I apologize for not uploading when I told you I was going to. I tried to get it up for last week's Thanksgiving, but we're getting caught up. We got a good routine. We just came off of an awesome interview that we're going to bring to you next Tuesday, George Roddy. So please keep an eye out for that. Tavis and I just got through talking with him, and he's awesome. So that is going to be the next phase of the Real Estate Heavyweights University. We talked about flipping for about 6 episodes, and we really went deep into how to flip a house, things to think about, and that sort of thing. Go back, listen to those. Those are some really, really good episodes, but we're going to move into more of an interview format there. We're still going to dive deep every once in a while, but we're going to find some awesome people in the DFW area and probably nationally at some point that talk about real estate, their journey, the lessons that they can teach you. And if they're all like George's, I'm just going to preview this. If they're all like George, like this will be an amazing, amazing podcast because he set the bar extremely high for our first interview. So please tune in for that. He did an awesome job. So I'm Ashton Hines, one half of the Real Estate Heavyweights, and I'm the newbie of the group. I'm working on flip number 4. I'm a real estate agent, but I also work full-time as a physical therapist assistant. I'm helping people with their balance after surgery, that sort of thing, driving all over town. I'm pretty busy with therapy these days. Joining me in my quest to conquer the real estate world is my friend, Tavis Westbrook, the other half of the Real Estate Heavyweights, and he joins us this morning. How are you doing, Tavis?
What it be? Man, I'm doing well. I'm excited to launch these episodes this week because I think that interview is going to be awesome. So I'm looking forward to how the audience reacts out there. Yes. And just so I can say it now before I forget, a lot of you guys have been reaching out and dropping nuggets back to me and letting me know that you guys are tuned in and enjoying the show. So thank you so much. If you guys would please, I don't know if you can do it on Spotify, but I know on Apple Podcasts, there is an option there to drop a review. Ashton, you might be able to tell them about the Spotify one, but
I don't think you can do a review on Spotify. I'll double check. You can put us a 5 stars, you can give us the 5-star review. You can rate us, but yeah, I don't know that there's an actual review. I think Apple allows that. And, whatever platform you're listening to, click the subscribe button, the follow button, so you can know when we're uploading things. Give us a review. Click the 5 stars. It really does help. And the big thing is just click the share button and send it to a friend. And I promise you, I don't want to oversell it, but once you hear George in the interview, you'll be like, look, do more of that. Like we talk great. We got a lot to offer, but trust me, there's people out there that just in Dallas, like we could just interview people from Dallas and will blow you away with their life experience and the things that they've got going. So, so Tavis, we were talking a little bit offline. Why don't you update us? I know that you've got a lot of irons in the fire. You don't have a flip going right now, but I think you're working on some wholesale stuff. So talk a little bit about that deal over in Plano that you're working with.
So before I do that, though, I do want to drop a line out there. Any of you guys that are in the Garland area or nearby, I think the Marquesita Sweet Shop is one of my last tenants, I guess, to get settled in over there on our strip center in Garland. This is located at 1918 East Miller Road, and I believe this weekend, Saturday, they're going to have their soft grand opening. Cool. And this place is like a, Mexican-based sweet shop, so kind of a bakery, if you will, for desserts and decorates, and also they're going to do elotes and some fruit cups and all that good stuff with the tahine and the chamoy.
Talking about.
So anyways, I'm excited for them. I know it's been quite the journey for them the last couple of weeks, just getting through final inspections and things like that with the health department, etc. But they finally got their CO yesterday, so I'm excited And it's exciting to see other businesses grow. Obviously, it helps us out, but I'm excited to see their business start out and flourish as well. So, if you guys are in the area this weekend, and then also, I believe the State Farm office actually officially opens their first day in business is December 1st. So, I'm excited to see that happen. So, anyways, that's where part of my time's been, is trying to make sure these guys are good to go. We got a new monument sign going in this week in the parking lot. So, excited to see all that happen. As far as the business front goes and lead front goes, I've gotten several leads this week, so thank you guys for who has sent those in. And we've got a couple that are working, so a couple irons in the fire. We'll kind of see what happens. Some offers that haven't been rejected yet. So there's always hope until that happens, right? So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. One in Farmers Branch, one in Plano. So we'll see what happens with that. And other than that, man, we're just trying to finish out the year strong and line up goals and things for the new year. I think you and I were talking strategy the other day, just trying to come up with some new techniques.
Yep.
And see what's going to work going into the new year for acquisitions.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, tell your folks down over in Garland, if they need someone to write a review about elote, I am there, because elote and tablitas. You brought me on to tablitas. That is a short rib that you can find at the Latin market that's pre-marinated, and holy cow, it's awesome. And I was brought onto elote, I don't know, a year or two ago. I don't think I'd ever had it. I think it was probably at a fair or something. And, we were actually in Cabo, and they had a street vendor with some elote there. Oh my gosh, that stuff is great. So yeah, you tell them
corn in a cup mixed with
corn in a cup, sour cream or cotija cheese, and some chili pepper or whatever. People do it differently. I love to do it on the grill, get a little char on that corn, and oh man, I may have to go get some elote for lunch.
Yeah,
you can tell the real estate heavyweights get distracted about food, a little bit of food every once in a while. But yeah, so we're talking about, Tavis and I are talking about like how we're going to move our business forward in the next year. I'm wrapping up a flip over on Mapleton, and I know I've said it before. I really do think we're going to list this week. The pictures are today. It's been staged.
Oh,
it looks awesome.
You are. You have to speak it into.
I'm going to list this week. Yes, the pictures are today. We're doing the twilight pictures, and so they're going to come over a little bit later in the evening, because we did a nice job with the lights out front. So we are going to try to highlight what it looks like at night, because it looks really cool. And so those pictures are today. We're going to get the listing together, and we're going to list it Thursday evening, Friday morning. That is what's going to happen. So and then I will have a flood of people coming into my life this weekend trying to put an offer into that house. So
yes,
I'm super excited to get that on the market. I'm blown away with how it's turned out. So Mapleton is coming together, and we actually have our producer, technological guy that's helped us out in the back end, Josh. We've mentioned him. I also have my real estate license. I'm listing, Josh and Krista are listing their house, and it's over in Dallas, Richardson ISD. We did the pictures and we got it all ready, and we put it out there, and turns out, like we've been talking about, if you price it properly, you stage it, you try to do everything you can to make it presentable, and they've done an awesome job of keeping it tip-top shape when people come to look at it. And we've done some open houses, and on day 15 we got a solid offer, and so fingers crossed, we are closing in on that option period, and we're gonna move past that and get them moved on to their next chapter. So super excited about that. It's really fun. It's a little nerve-wracking to go through it with friends, because you're like, man, I really hope this goes well. I think everything's right. You think you're doing it right, but then you're like, I really want this to go right for them. So we're excited about that. But what's funny is Tavis and I are looking at some different marketing channels. And, when you're in the investment space, you can send out the flyers, you can send out letters, you can put out bandit signs, like the signs you see on intersections that say, "We buy homes." And then you have the text blasting, and you have the cold calls. And so we're just sort of exploring, like, what do people do? What are people having success with? Tavis has great success with agent outreach, and he's developed those personal relationships with, honestly, is like, it's amazing if you can have that. But the statistic that I thought was crazy is I talked to a cold calling real estate company, and this is what they advertise. They say every month their cold callers call. You have to give them the info, but they'll call between 10,000 and 16,000 people. And they, on average, will get you 20 to 40 warm leads. And I'm like, man, that statistic is unbelievable. Because I mean, you just think about how many calls you get. Hey, are you interested in selling your house? Someone, whoever had my phone number before me, lives over, her name is Deborah Cervantes, and she lives at 717 Via Altos Drive over in Garland, because I get that call 3 times a day, and they want Deborah to sell the house. I'm like, it's not Deborah. But yeah, those companies, if you ever wanted to know how they work, man, they call constantly. They have these dialer machines. They're just literally dialing nonstop, 10,000 to 16,000 a month, and they might get 20 to 40 leads. So
20 to 40 leads. That's not even
leads.
That's not
Yes.
converted.
That's right. That's not converted. So then you still have to do the work and convert. And man, that is a grind. But we're trying to figure out how we can move our businesses forward, how we can get more leads. So if you're listening to this and you have someone else that's in the business, that's honestly the best way. We want to get to know them. We want to take them to lunch and say, this is what we're looking for. If you find something that's not MLS appropriate, or you want to sell it off market, think of us first. Tavis, he's been in this business a long time. He's been developing those relationships over at Keller Williams, Dallas Preston Road. I joined that office recently. So we want to be someone that you think about, the real estate heavyweights. We want to be in your thoughts when you're out there looking at real estate. So yeah, we will be, I don't know. From me, I'm hoping to wholesale a few things next. I think I'm going to take a little breather after flipping this one. I've been going for about 14 months straight of flipping some stressful houses, and I'd like to wholesale a few. So we'll see what the next few months look like. But maybe I'll get a few listings going too and finish the year strong. That would be amazing.
It starts with just getting leads, right? You get leads, we get a solid lead, and then figure out what to do with it, right? So
Yep.
That's where
it's all about. It's all about getting leads. Well, why don't we go ahead and get into a little bit of a market update? So our market is similar as far as days on market. I looked at our MLS. The overall MLS right now, no filters at all, is around 27 days on the market. It says it's roughly 3.5 months of inventory. When you narrow it down to the counties that we work in a lot, Denton, Collin, Dallas, those numbers are closer to around 24, 25 days, depending on the county you look at. Some of them are jumping up a little over 30 days on market, but it's still solid. The interesting thing that I did hear a local mortgage person talking about is that the sentiment from a lot of agents, they do feel like it is becoming a little bit more of a buyer's market in some instances, where there are some price concessions. It's probably just, it's mellowing out, and it's actually becoming a little bit of a give and take. And it's not like there's huge discounts on houses, but there are some slight price drops. There are some concessions. There's just room for negotiating. And so I think this is actually, if it could stay here for a long time, this is a healthy market. And if you really need to sell, you can drop your price. If you want to be a little stubborn and try to get top dollar, you might be able to get it because there's not a ton of inventory out there. So Tavis, as far as a market movement, what are you seeing out there as far as pricing and negotiating and all that sort of thing? What the deals that you're looking at?
I think it's just getting people on the right page, right? Like, I mean, we always talk about convenience. Convenience is when opportunities show up. So, I mean, one that I'm working right now is a Plano deal, and I believe it's divorce. And so speed is the name of the game, and convenience on that one. Price point's high though. So, we're going to have to see what the options are with that. And that's the tricky part is, it's kind of the combination of everything. You got to look at, not only is it speed and convenience, but where's the buy box? Where's the exit strategy on this thing? So the other one is in Farmers Branch, and actually both of these properties, what's interesting is both of these properties, I believe, were purchased by the current owners um, in the last 5 years, five to six
Hmm.
years, something like that. So the equity's gained that much to where there's enough yield in it. Essentially, we're buying it somewhere around what they paid, or maybe even a little bit less,
Hmm.
potentially because they need work. But um, there's enough yield in it now because of appreciation. So that's kind of
Hmm.
the big aha to me over the last 5 years, that there's been that much to where we can look at somebody that just purchased it within 5 years. Back in the day, anybody that had bought anything within the last 5 years, it wasn't enough yield, right? Because we were only
Hmm.
increasing by a couple percent per year, versus the last several years we've been increasing appreciation by 10+%. So anyway, so that's kind of been interesting, that some of these opportunities have come with people that haven't owned the property very long. In the past, it's been people that have owned properties for 20, 30 years, sometimes. So
Yep.
it's still a competitive market. I mean, I think, like George said in our interview, there's a lot of people that have been in the sandbox. There's a lot of people that got in over the last couple of years, with the way that the market's been running like crazy. And so our competition, unfortunately, is not at the same level of expertise that I bring to the table. So unfortunately, there's a lot of situations where I get outbid, and it's tough, when you look at how many at bats I go at, and how many different situations, where people have options right now. And I think it's becoming a little bit more realistic in some cases, where maybe, 6 months to a year ago, somebody would say, no, there's no way, your offer is way too low. And then they can go a different way and get an offer $25,000-$30,000 higher. Right now, I think that's getting a little tighter. I think
Hmm.
there are people getting out of the game. There's people that aren't able to succeed in the way things are going. And I think that's a great lead into one of the articles that we
Yeah.
looked up. If you wanna kind of touch on that, I think it's a great way to kind of connect the two together.
Tavis, you must be alluding to the fact that we're going to talk about news.
There you go.
So, yeah, in the news, well, there's a couple things that came out I'd like to talk about. We'll get to the flipping one that we're just alluding to. Before we get there, because I think it's a good one we can vamp on. I just saw an interesting statistic. Oh man, that was difficult this morning. An interesting statistic that was showing that the inflow of residents from California as a net, but I think there was something like 250,000 Texans had moved to California last year, which I thought was crazy. I was like, man, we just sort of, in my mind, there's just this like this wagon train from California leaving there. But once you back up and you look at statistics and the big picture, there's still a lot of value in places. And I think the lesson there is, when the public sentiment about something is blowing, the wind is blowing, and you hear negative, 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 like what George was saying, sometimes that is the time when you say, maybe I'm going to go over in this other sandbox, and so we've heard for a long time, hey, Californians are just leaving in droves or coming to Texas. But there's this whole other movement of people that are still going there. They're still going to New York, and there's these places. And it might be that I think the lesson for me is don't just always take everything on the news and Twitter and Instagram and all the little 15-second sound bites as the gospel truth. Sometimes if you start hearing more and more and more, you can't ignore it because there's probably some fact to it. But it's nice to back up and say, why would it make sense for these other people to be going there? I wonder if there's opportunity there. So I just thought that was really interesting to see. But the article that I had sent Tavis, that we were talking about as far as the flipping goes, is that the number of houses flipped is down like 30% this year. And specifically in the Dallas area, it said that the national average profit for a flip is $65,000, but in the DFW area, it's $22,000. And I thought, man, what would make that to be the case? And so I'm super curious to hear it from Tavis. But as you were talking about, part of the reason I am a great example of this because I got in and I'm working on flip number 4. My last 2 have been full flips. I think my budget was around 140 on Polk. I'm creeping up on 160 on this one on a house that should not even be close to that for a rehab. And my holding costs are going to be close to 45 to 50,000 depending on how long it takes. And so if I didn't have Tavis or some other people in my life that are helping get to the finish line, I would have been sunk on this a long time ago. And so if there are people like me who wanted to get in the game and, hey, we're moving in that direction, let's do this. There's a lot of wholesalers. There's New Western. There's this and there's hard money and like, hey, let's get into it. And then your first 2 projects tank. I could see like they are done. And they ruin the average for everyone else because they're upside down. So maybe I'm a good indicator as to why that number is lower. Maybe there's a lot of people like me who have put their, like the Airbnb folks, they got out there, they tried to buy Airbnb. It's harder than it looks. It's more expensive than it looks. Dallas is changing the regulations. Now people are flocking from that industry in Dallas. And so I don't know, when you saw that article, what were your initial thoughts as to what would make that make sense?
I mean, obviously it hit home, it hits home with, I mean, just business being down this year from last year. As far as, the opportunities I've had, the units moved, I guess, this year, versus last year. So, it's, I, I mean, you read these and, you wonder, what are their basis of the statistics? What are the basis of the data that they're actually truly comparing it to? Because when you look at, year over year statistics, I mean, obviously inventory has shifted, rates have gone up. There's a lot of different things that are contributed to that. But I do believe that, people that have gotten in the game and been buying properties to renovate and sell, the market corrected a lot of their mistakes before. And so people were buying too high. Who knows what they were spending on renovations, but, because inventory was still low, and inventory is still relatively low. I think you started this saying, I mean, we're still a balanced market, as we said before, 6 months, right? So we're still less inventory than that. I think you said it's like 3 months right now.
3.5. Yeah.
So, I mean, we're creeping up closer to more of a balanced market, but we're not what we were. And because of that, I think, you're seeing, I mean, here's the thing. Yeah. And I'm going to use our interview as a benchmark, because George mentioned something about in his rehabs, he was always looking for, base hits, right? And even what he does today, it's like, can I hit a single and a double, and at the end of the day, I'm going to put out a good product that's going to undercut the market a little bit. I know that in my price point, I'm going to have one of the best products out there, in that price point. So that way it's not going to sit. It's not going to have a shelf life. It's going to move quickly. And somebody's going to be extremely happy with it and be willing to pay my price. And, we've talked about that directly into pricing and projections, right? And having these exit strategies. Now, in your case, with Mapleton, I mean, I feel really confident in what we've talked about pricing yours. And we know it in comparison to one sitting on the market now for the last, 2 months that they've sitting on there. And
60 days. Yeah. I think
60 days. They're a little smaller than you. They back up to a busy road just like you do. And it's a decent flip. I mean, the pictures look good to drag you in. There's a few anomalies that you've walked it and videoed actually that are, make you scratch your head a little bit. But based
the
on
smallest bathroom you would ever, but I would not be able to use that bathroom on a regular basis because I would have a hard time turning around in there.
Sure.
This is not a normal bath, but yeah, it has some quirks.
But I'm sure that bathroom was added to avoid having a master suite attached to a common bathroom, right? So a lot of times in those homes when they're built, just like Mapleton had, the main bathroom of the home was also Jack and Jill style to the master. So you didn't have that privacy master suite. And so what you've seen now in 2 different comps over there is people have just put in a half bath, which In your case, we were able to design it to actually put in a full bath. And so now you have 3 full baths versus 2.5, right? So it actually worked out really well, doing what we did with yours. But all that being said, I think, a lot of people get that wrong. And so what happens is, where I've seen a lot of mistakes out there, is people start cutting corners on the rehab. They start cutting corners, and it's obvious because the numbers ran high. Maybe some of their infrastructure ate their lunch. And what happens is they start pulling away on the back end. And so they cut their finishes a little short. Maybe they don't do landscape. Maybe they don't do a fence. Maybe they don't do hardware, on the cabinets. Maybe, and a lot of times we're seeing people aren't spending the money to stage it. So you're just getting this vacant, cold home that, it's been renovated, but it's easy to spot flaws in a vacant, renovated home that's sitting there, and you're kind of playing this up as, hey, it's been fully renovated, but you walk into it and you're like, I see a flaw here, I see a flaw here, I see a flaw here. Like, oh, this isn't done very
especially
good.
especially when the design language right now is crisp and clean.
Yeah.
And when the walls are super flat and everything's white and you got these crisp lines, your finish has to be really on point, because there's no hiding. And that's one of the issues with this flip down the street is it looks cool when you first walk in, but when you really spend any time there, you notice gaps in, the air return, going back to the air handler that doesn't fit. They didn't get a custom one, so there's a little gap there. You go into the bathroom, there's tile issues, there's just finish issues. And when it's white and bright and there's no staging, everyone can see everything.
Yep.
And it's, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. And I think that's when you walk in there and you see it on the pictures, it's one thing. You walk in there, you're like, yeah, this probably isn't for me.
Well, and I think it's, the unfortunate part is that the property was lived in for a year and it's fully furnished and somebody's living there. You're not going to notice all those mistakes, right? If it's priced right and it's competitive, nobody's going to care because it doesn't have a spotlight on it. But when it's a vacant, renovated home and you're at the top side of value, it's got a spotlight on it. So you better make sure that you're crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's. Regardless of how painful it is right now, you're bleeding money on this deal. But, we talked about this in one of our recent episodes, about when do you know to quit, or when do you know that you've done enough? And I think it's just getting to a point where there's things that aren't left undone, right? And it looks like, okay, you took it all the way through, you finished the steps, you've taken it all the way to the finish line, right? And I know you talked about that, even like you contemplated staying the fence or not, right? But that's just one of those finished touches. I mean, when you're dealing with an anomaly like you are with backing to a busy road, that's an issue we can't change. So you have to fight that with price, and you have to fight it with finished details. And the fact that now you have a new fence and it is stained, and you have the new poured concrete in the back, at least you walk out there, yes, you back to a busy street, but you can't see it because you have an 8-foot fence versus the old fence was 6 foot. And it looks finished, right? And it looks new. So I think that's good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm super happy with what we've done over there. It is interesting to see the overall flipping market has decreased. Part of that could be that some of the institutional money is harder to get. Some of the banks might have tightened up a little bit on flips. I know some hard money lenders evidently have become harder to get. And honestly, the numbers that they would have to lend at right now probably don't. There's some deals that just don't pencil. You're probably having to come to the table with more cash to pencil deals, and that could be a difficult thing for people. They don't have the money to put down on something, so that might be driving people down. The difference in profit from other parts of the country and Dallas, I'm not 100% sure on. I don't know if you've talked about before, but do you have a benchmark profit that you go for? Is it a percentage? Is it a lump sum that if I can't get this, it's just not even really worth my time? Or how do you normally do that?
So for me, I've always looked at simple math from like a 15 to 20% cash on cash return is kind of the goal of what I'm looking for. In some senses, I may be willing to go lower on that if if the time versus money convenience factor is there, right? Like, I mean, even this Farmers Branch one, I'm definitely under those numbers as far as a cash on cash return goes. It's below that threshold, but based on time of year, getting into the deal, what I think that I can accomplish by getting in and getting out of this property, and a high demand area based on price point, because I believe the ARV on that property is around like the 350 number, I believe. So it's that first time home buyer price point. And some of the properties over there at that price point are lived in homes that haven't been renovated. So again, we go back to putting out a superior product in a competitive market where you're one of a kind, right? If you're one of a kind, you're going to drive traffic and going to drive multiple offers, potentially staying within that. Now, if you get bullheaded and you think, oh man, I'm a superior product and there's nothing else out here that matches that, and let me push it to 400, yeah, you're probably not going to get it, right? I mean, you have to be aware that even though you have those things, you have to be attractive enough to where somebody's going to do that on their own almost, right? You can't make that decision for them and say, well, the average sales price is 350, but I feel like it's worth $50,000 more, or because I put 50,000 into this property, I should be able to get 400. If there's nothing to support that buyer, that consumer may not have the same mentality. But if they're looking at a consumer property that hasn't really been updated at 350 and you're listed at 350, then they're much more willing to go ahead and attack yours and maybe pay more than asking because they see the value now, right?
Yep. Well, good deal. We will continue to talk about flipping, and honestly, if you want to learn how to invest, and specifically you want to learn how to flip, you're in the right spot. My partner here, he's done a ton, and he's teaching me every day the little nuances. Pay attention to this. Don't pay attention to that. And honestly, one of the biggest things that I feel like I've learned from you and your guys that you've chosen to work with, and I've said this a few times, is it's not necessarily the how-to, it's the overall mentality. And I've been able to calm down a little bit inside of this storm, outside of just being completely stressed all the time. It's still stressful. And when you're dealing with that much money coming in and going out, and timelines and the economy, and there's certain things that are just stressful. And if you are completely adverse to stress, flipping houses is probably not for you. But if you are able to take a deep breath and deal with facts and treat people around you similarly, and surround yourself with people who don't get stressed and yell and freak out and throw things, then you can get through these. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to team up with Tavis and now his guys, that they're just this group of people that have all learned how to work together and get a product that's really, really quality out there. So definitely grateful to Tavis for that. But yes, we will keep coming to you with that. I think maybe next week I would love to do, I was listening to On the Market podcast. I've mentioned that before for Bigger Pockets. It's an economics podcast, so please listen to that. They did the year predictions and the year in review as far as the interest rates. They had a lot of really cool things to say about what they expect for next year. And I think that would be interesting to talk about in our next market update next week. So please tune in for that. Again, a plug for George Roddy, the interview that we're going to put out on Tuesday. You do not want to miss it. Let's just say he used to carry around a lot of money in his pocket doing deals. And that little 30-second statistic that he drops almost made me pass out. So you want to hear George talk about that on Tuesday. Please don't miss it. But we hope you have a great week. If you haven't yet, like, subscribe, share, follow me on Instagram, the Dallas Real Estate Guy. You can go find Tavis on Facebook and on Instagram. He's Tavis Westbrook, Travis without the R. You can find him. You can reach out to me on email. We're about to get our website going as well, kind of make this whole segment here a little bit cleaner, because you'll be able to reach out to us at like the reheavyweights.com or something like that. So we're getting all official for our millions of listeners, our adoring fans out there. We're making it a little bit easier. So Tavis, I hope you have a great day. And for everybody out there, I hope you have a great day and the rest of the week, and we will see you next time.
See you guys.